Okay, so tonight we'll be talking about capacity planning. What does it have to do with Scrum? What does it have to do with Agile? That's what we want to look at today. Okay, so we will be looking at the meaning of capacity planning. We'll look at the understanding capacity planning. How do we collect data for capacity to plan the team's capacity? What are the benefits of planning a team's capacity? We'll look at some factors, we need to consider while we're doing that. We look at how the calculation is done, and then also the location of your, where it's located on Azure, DevOps board, your project board. So those are the things we're going to cover tonight. So we're going to start off with the meaning of capacity planning. Okay. So capacity planning is just the estimate and the calculation of your Scrum team's available productive hours for the next sprint that you're going into. So it's a planning you do before you start your sprint, or every sprint you want to start. Is a planning you do before that, and you're planning the capacity, availability of your team members, especially the ones that are working. So we're looking at the developers. Developers in this sense, we're looking at the software engineers themselves and the testers. Those are your developers, and those are the people that we need to get their capacity. Okay, so we want to look at that. That is what your capacity means in a nutshell, and it helps the team to determine capacity that is required, and this helps you to analyze what you do during your sprint planning. Okay, so I might not, for example, I might not have a capacity or full capacity for a particular sprint. Somebody else might have, and all that needs to be put into consideration. And like I said, it's something you do and before you start your sprint planning, so that during your sprint planning, you know the amount of work you're taking in, because you know the capacity that you have to be able to do whatever work that you take into the sprint. Okay, so it helps you to determine the capacity required and analyze the existing capacity in order for you to have an informed decision when you go into your planning or when you're committing to the work that you want to do. We'll go into fuller understanding. So I'm going to use, I just want to use this and illustration, to give us a good understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about capacity planning. I'm going to use sorry about that. I'm going to use this bakery and the people that are working in it. So there's a particular bakery belonging to Mr. Lawson. If anybody is Mr. Lawson, please forgive me just for using that name, just for the sake of illustration. It has a bakery and it has to turn out about 20 trays of pastry per day. Okay. It has 10 people working with him. He has 10 staffs, people that are baking in his bakery and all that. And then he turns out 20 trays per day that he normally delivers to 10 stores. So he makes this pastry for 10 stores. He does that every day. Now, in a situation where two of his staffs, so normally maybe when a week finishes, before he goes into another week, he tells his staff, oh, I need to know who is available next week, what days are you available and things like that. He does that before they go into the next week and they start producing and all that. And two of those staffs says, oh, I'm not going to be in. Oh, one is taking a holiday that week. Another one says, oh, I have, childcare issue and things like that. But two people are not going to be in the next week. Okay, so that is, so if his output per day is 20 trays and he has 10 staffs, we know that each staff is turning out 2 trays, isn't it? Now 2 staffs are not going to be in, so that means we're going to be short of 4 trays, and he's delivering to 10 stores. So if you're delivering to 10 stores and you turn out 20 trays of pastry, that means 2 trays of pastry per store. So if 2 staffs are not going to be in, we're going to turn out 16 trays for that day. Every day of that week is going to be 16 trays that we're going to get out. So if we look at it, 2 stores might not be able to get 2 trays if we look at that. So if this baker knows about that early enough, he might as well decide to meet with the stores that he delivers to say, oh, due to shortage of staff on this particular week and all that, I won't be able to give you 2 trays every day. I might be able to give you maybe 1.5 trays, depending on how he wants to spread the 16 trays that he's going to have every day over the 10 stores that he has. So he might say, oh, I might just be able to give you 1.5 tray. Do you understand? Per day throughout, just for next week, and then things will go back to normal. Because of that planning he has put in place, he's able to prepare his the store that he delivers to his customers. He's able to prepare them for what they're going to get, and they are aware of it. And if those ones also needs to put some plan in place, they are aware of it, they'll be able to put that plan in place. And that is that man doing capacity planning in a bakery, in a layman's form, so that we understand what we're talking about. So the bakers or the staff are the team, and 2 members of that team are not going to be around. So the baker himself now needs to notify his customers, who are the stakeholders, to say that, oh, due to capacity, we might not have this output that we're looking for. We might not be able to do the full feature that we're looking for due to this reason and that. So they are aware, and then they also plan themselves. They might say that, oh, that's fine. Just make sure you prioritize just these 2 and these 2 and these 2 and these ones. Those are the ones that are priority. Those other ones can go into the next sprint. That is what your capacity planning is all about. A situation where you know the number of people, the available number of people that can do productive work that you have, in order so that you can do your sprint planning very well. So that when the product owner comes and says, I want you to work on 10 stories and all that, even if we had done 10 stories in the previous sprint, when we have full capacity, we'll be able to tell negotiate sort of, and which comes on you mostly as a scrum master, to negotiate, to say, oh, I don't have full capacity. I have maybe 2 staff that are not going to be around, and that's going to affect things. So can we reduce the number of stories that we need to work on? You negotiate that, work on the most priority, and then you can even tell the PO to say that if we have capacity left, if there is, time permits and somebody finishes what they're doing on time, we might think about bringing one of those stories that we've removed back. But for now, this is what is it. Realistically planning, doing your sprint planning once you know your capacity. So this is just to explain what capacity planning is all about in a probably use the word layman terms, so that we have a deeper understanding of what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. So there are some things we need to understand when we're talking about capacity planning. And the first thing is that a team's capacity is based on the team's productive hours. So I work in a company, I do 9 to 5 in a company, and that's 7 hours work, because definitely you will get your break time and everything. Out of those 7 hours, you will look at it and you say all 7 hours is productive, isn't it? Because I'm in the organization and working and all that. But the productive hours we're talking about when it comes to team's capacity is the hours you actually use, the developer actually use coding, the hours the testers actually use carrying out a test is your productive hours. So there are some other hours which you use for, meetings, your sprint planning meetings, your stand-up meetings and all that. They are productive in their own sense, yeah, but they are not productive in actually coding and doing what they need to do. So that's one of the things we need to know, that when you calculate the team's capacity, you're calculating the time they're actually using, doing the coding, doing the testing. Those are what is referred to as productive hours. Another thing is your capacity is planned based on your team's availability. So it's based on the days, the hours they are at work, not, it's 10 days. Moji is here for 10 days and everything. If I'm not there for 10 days, if I'm taking 1 day off, you can't count that 1 day I'm taking off and plan on it. You have to remove that from whatever plan you're doing. And you will see that when we get to practically calculating the team's capacity that we have in place. Another thing is you have to do it, like I said, 2 or 3 days before the sprint planning date, so that you know the team's capacity even before you start your sprint plan, because you need it, like I said, in order to commit to work. Your team needs it in order to commit to work. And that's where you're coming to negotiate that aspect. That's part of you shielding your team. Negotiate that aspect, because you don't want them to be overwhelmed with work. You don't want the work that 10 people should be doing. For 7 people to be doing what 10 people should be doing, they will become overwhelmed, and you will get poor quality. You'll get stressed team members, and you don't want that. Okay, so you have to do it prior to your sprint planning date. You also have to consider, there's consideration to be given to team members' status. So in a situation where Laomi is a full member of Eagles team, that will be Laomi's 100% capacity. Oh, sorry, 100% is an 100% resources on that project. In a situation where you have a shared resource or a borrowed resource, I'll explain what that means. So we don't have enough hands. This thing needs to go out at all costs. So we are going to bring Abimbola, who knows about this project, who has worked on it before she's been moved to another project. And we'll say, Abimbola, you need to share your time with us in this team in order to get this thing out, because it's critical. The organization understands it, and they are borrowing us Abimbola to come in, and do what we need to do. So she's a borrowed resource or a shared resource. So where we're giving Laomi 100% work to do, we can't give Abimbola 100% work to do, because she's being shared between two projects. So you have to consider that when you're doing your capacity planning also. And then you have to realize that your capacity planning is an estimate of a future activity. Remember, it's for the next sprint, not the sprint you're in. And it's an estimate, it's not accurate. Okay, we're saying roughly an estimate, this is what is going to be. Okay, while your velocity measures past activity, but you can use your velocity, which we will get to. You can use your average velocity that with your team's capacity that to plan what you're going to take in. Okay, we will get to that. Or invariably, what we're saying here is, let's use this, which is your capacity, that we might have. We're not sure we're going to have it. We might have it, because I can tell you I'm coming in 10 days. Okay, I'm going to be in all 10 days. I'm giving you my full thing and everything. If I have an emergency within that 10 days, I didn't know it was going to happen. It's an emergency. That's why it's an estimate, is not accurate. So you need to leave some buffer when you're doing that planning. That's why we call it an estimate. Okay, so let's use this, which is the capacity that we might have, in order to achieve this work we want to do, which is your sprint goal, based on our past performance. And that is your velocity. Okay, you look at your velocity. Can we stay muted, please? Thank you. Okay, so with that, let's go to the next thing. So how do we gather information from the team members? Sorry, somebody is muted, and that person is disturbing the session. Can we also, okay. All right, so we want to look at how you gather those information from your team members. How do I know that a team member is only available for 8 days? How do I know if a team member is not even available at all for the 2 weeks of a particular sprint? You need to gather that information from them. So how you gather that information from them, you can use some of the options that you can see. Not limited to this, but you can use, these are some of the basic ones that you can do. You can get them into a meeting, gather your team members into a meeting for a brief meeting, 30 minutes. Even the 30 minutes one is when you're doing it for the first time. Once your team is used to it, you don't really need that 30 minutes to do it. Okay, and then you collect that information from them. You collect who is day off, you collect holidays, you collect training, who is going for trainings, and know that you can do that. You can have an updated document, create an Excel sheet on G Drive, and then share it with the team to populate with the needed information. So you've stated all the dates in there and everything, and you're just maybe telling them, oh, some do use color coding. Some would say on the days that you're not going to be available and everything, just, gray those days out so that we know that those are the days that you won't be available and all that. So the team are the one populating that document themselves, and then you're just going to use that document to create the capacity that you want to do. Some organizations don't even go through the capacity planning. The formula and the calculation we're doing, they just use that Excel document that they've shared. Everybody has access to it. They've color coded it. The people have grayed out the times when they won't be around and everything. And those are the ones that are using it in days. So they're looking at, oh, how many days does this person have? How many days does this person have? And all that. Where we have issues with that, I think a matured team can use that because they're used to the way they're working. They know their velocity and so on and so forth and all that. For a team that is just starting and basing their commitment on working with their average velocity, it's better to get their the days they are available and then work out the capacity rather than using the day. And then you will see it when we go into what we needed to do. Another thing, like I said, is you can train the team on capacity planning to help them self-manage. That's the one I was talking about, that when you give them the documents, they go in there and they just gray it out. You can do a reminder to them to say, oh, don't forget to, update the capacity spreadsheet and everything. You can do that. Another one you can do is, if you don't call them into a meeting, you have a Teams chat. So inside in your Teams chart as a Scrum Master, you know the days you needed to do what you need to do. So you can just put a message across there for everyone, tag everyone, and then just say that please confirm your availability in the next 2 weeks. Put the date period there so that they are aware that you're talking about from this Monday to this Friday. They are aware of that. And then you start seeing people saying, oh, I'm not gonna be available on Saturday, I'm not gonna be available on so days and all that. So if you have a spreadsheet for that, you then be the one to go in and populate that spreadsheet, because there are times when you can remind them that please populate the spreadsheet, they won't do it. The developers don't want to do that admin aspect of things, so to say. Even though they need to self-manage, they still see it as your role to do and all that. So you can get it on the chart at the availability, and then you go and populate the Excel sheet and use that to do the calculation. So that's some of the ways you can gather your information about the days, what is available, and all that. There might be other ones, but these are just the basic ones. Excuse me. So we want to look at the benefits. Why do we do this? Why do we need to do capacity planning? The first one is about better sprint planning. I said it earlier on. It helps the team to know what they can commit to. If we know the capacity, if we know the number of team members that are available, we'll be able to know what we're committing to. We won't assume that, oh, everybody is going to be available and then we commit to work. And in so doing, you won't have to overcommit. When you overcommit is when you have more people and then you're taking so little in. So some people won't have anything to do during the sprint, which is not right. And then you don't want to undercommit. You don't want to take in so much, and then people are, like I said, they're overwhelmed, they're drowning in work because you didn't do the planning. You didn't, do your capacity planning properly. So it helps to get better sprint planning in place. It improves commitment reliability. Over time, team members' commitment gets improved and reliable. Well, by the time you're looking at the capacity pattern, you'll be able to know. So if you have a team member who is part-time, okay, this person is part-time. So when we are taking in work for that person and everything, we don't take too much. It just helps you to know the pattern of people. Oh, this person always takes time off at this particular time. So you don't rely on such person, when it comes to commitment wise and everything, because maybe you notice that, okay, every time we do the capacity planning, this person is always saying, oh, I'm going to be here 10 days. And we just notice that there is a pattern of always taking time off, saying I have emergency and things like that and everything. So if the person is saying, oh, I'm coming in full and all that, you as a Scrum Master, you know that every time he says he's coming fully and everything, but he ends up just doing 8 days. So when you're planning work, commitment for that person, don't do 10 days work, because you know that they might not come 10 days. They have a pattern of always taking 2 days off or a day off and everything. And so you're planning work for them based on that. So it improves your team members' commitment, and it also improves the reliability you put on someone. Their tech lead, if they have a tech lead, will be able to look at that and know that this is, the pattern of this person. It helps also to control scope creep. Okay, so scope creep is the additional work that comes into a sprint, which you didn't plan for initially. So is scope creep means an increase. Okay, so it's like your scope increasing, and it's not just limited to people bringing in things that they're not supposed to bring in. There are times when scope creep can be justified. So your developers start working on a particular thing based on the story that has been written on the site. They found out that, oh, actually, before we can actually do this, build this, we need to do this first. So in bringing that new thing they discovered during the development aspect in, that's the scope creep. But it's something that we needed to do. If you don't do it, it's dependent on the other thing being done. So they need to bring it in. So you but it when you have your your capacity planning in place. Because for that new thing that is coming in, you're able to sit down with that developer and ask, okay, so with this that you need to do, and maybe other 4, tasks that you still need to do you think this is going to take, a lot of your time? So let's assume that person working on that thing has maybe just 4 days to work, and a new task or a new task has come in based on something they've discovered, and the person is telling you, okay, this new thing that comes in is going to take me 3 days to do it. This person has just 4 days because you've done the capacity. That person's capacity for the sprint. So you know that the new thing and the one dependent on it might just be the 2 things that person does for the 4 days that they're going to be around. And then you're able to either take the story, the other tasks they have out of the sprint, or look for somebody else who can do it. So you're able to control, the scope creep by so doing. There are other scope creep that stories that might come in during the sprint, which the product owner might bring in to say that, oh, the stakeholders needs this is very important and all that. Remember, we didn't plan about that new thing that is coming in. So that's another creep. Might be tied to the scope of whatever our goal is, but is a new thing coming in, is an increase that we didn't plan for. So we'll be able to negotiate that, with the PO to say things like, okay, we are aware of your capacity. We don't have capacity to work on this particular thing. So if this story coming in or this requirement coming in takes priority over other things that we've taken into sprint, then we need to take something out in order to accommodate whatever new you're bringing in. We need to take something out also that will balance it. So if you're bringing in a story of an 8-point story, a story of 8 points, we're also going to take out 8 points so that we're still within our capacity to do what we need to do. We are not drowning the team in, rushing, putting them under pressure. So if we have low priority work that is maybe a 5 and a 3, we can take those ones out in order to accommodate that 8. So we're still balancing things up of what we can do, not just taking that in and then we're just increasing, our effort. We're increasing the story point. We're increasing the story point for the sprint. We'll negotiate. We'll take things out because we know the capacity. So it helps you to control that, and then it helps also to better allocate tasks. I talked earlier on about a full team member and a shared team member. So like I said, you can't give them both the same thing to work on during the sprint, because one is you have 50% availability of one person and you have 100% availability of the other person. So they can't do the same thing. And because the capacity is how you'll be able to, allocate work better, or the tech lead is able to allocate work better for them. So these are just some of the benefits of your capacity planning. Not all, but mainly these are the things, some of the benefits that you will get from doing that. Okay, so also we want to look at some factors that affect your capacity plan. When you're planning the capacity, these are some of the things that might affect your capacity. The first one is default distribution. So for your default distribution, it's just the standard hours that you're expected to work as an employee in an organization. Your 9 to 5 hours makes 8 hours, and then you have maybe 1 hour depending on the organization for break, or 30 minutes for break. So that's your default distribution. It comes with your employment contracts. That's your default distribution. And then you have Scrum events. So the Scrum events is looking at the times, the hours you spent on your Scrum event. You're looking at the times you spend for sprint planning, daily Scrum, your sprint review, your sprint retrospective, the times you spend for refinement and all that. Like I said, they are productive in their own sense, but they are not the times you actually sit down a developer sits down to, you know, be coding or developing, and a tester sits to carry out the quality test that they need to carry out. So you need to remove all that in order to get that productive hours that they are going to use to work. And then we have other meetings also in this situation also. So the other meetings in this situation includes, you know, some meetings like trainings, that your team members need to go to. Ad hoc, you can have an ad hoc meeting. You can have your three amigos meeting. It might be meetings that let's assume you have back end developers, front end developers. The front end developers might need to meet with their lead for maybe an update or things like that and everything. So those are referred to as other meetings. Any meeting outside the Scrum ceremonies are your other meetings, are the other meetings that they need to attend, they need to go to. The organization might be, or the department head for the engineering team might decide that, oh, there's the upskilling, you know, training that they need to go for. You can't stop them from going for it. And at the same time, while they are in that training, they are not actually coding, doing anything. So you want to remove all those from the hours that you want to use to make that call during the sprint planning. And the other one is team holiday, which I think is straightforward. The team holidays are just bank holidays, Christmas days, Boxing Day, Easter days, you know, all those bank holidays or general holidays are the thing you count as the team holidays. So those ones also, you will remove them from, you know, the hours that they're going to use to work if those holidays falls within a particular sprint. Okay, so Christmas, definitely you have sprints going on during the Christmas period, and you see the Christmas time and all that. So the another one factor is your individual full day off. So a team has an individual full day off. They're taking a day off, they're taking 1 week off, they're taking 2 weeks off, 2 weeks off, which falls in the whole sprint. So John might not be available the whole sprint because he's taking the holiday off and all that. We can't plan work for John, and we can't plan work for John, or for that John will be able to do if he had been around, because he's not going to be around. So that helps us to do that. Factor again we want to consider is partial day off. Somebody might take the morning off, or I'm taking the afternoon off. For the next 1 week, I'm taking the afternoon off. You know, for the next 2 weeks, because of good reasons they will have, definitely I need to work just in the mornings. I'm not going to work in the afternoons and all that. That would impact what that person is going to do during the sprint. So we want to factor that also into your planning. And the last one is the focus factor. So the focus factor is the team's capability, you know, to remain focused on the sprint goal. So that is the one that would determine, okay, this is the focused hour. This is that productive hours that we're talking about. And it enables you to calculate the productivity during that sprint. Okay. This is the time they focus without any distraction, no holiday, no meeting, nothing. Some team members, they do what they call block the block time out. So they might decide that, okay, our standoff finishes maybe 9:30 in the morning. So from 9:30 to maybe 3:30, I'm blocking it as I'm not talking to anybody. I'm focusing. That's where they put their hours on to focus on. And that focus, you know, is when they're actually doing their coding or their testing. Using that is what we call their productive hours. So we want to factor all that in when you're doing your capacity planning. Okay. All right. So before we go into looking at the steps, the different steps that we take to do the capacity planning, any questions so far? Quickly, just 2 minutes. I'm giving just 2 minutes for any questions before we go, based on what I've talked about up till now. Any question from anyone? None? Okay, cool. Then let's go ahead. Okay, so there are different steps, you know, to calculating the team's capacity, and we want to be looking at them one after the other. So the first one you're looking at is the sprint duration. So you look at your calendar. What is your sprint duration? What sprint duration do you have? Please ignore the date that we have on Monday. Okay, let's just ignore that. So you have 10 days in a sprint. Okay, you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that's the first week, and then you have the second week. So you want to note those days down, the days and the number of days, the period that it falls into, your sprint falls into. So that's your sprint duration in a calendar. You want to have that in place. You need to know that. Okay. So that's the first thing that you want to know. That's the first step that you need to do. The second step is to note down your team members and their roles. Okay. So I've had a team here. And as you can see, their roles are just developers and testers. You won't find BAs there. You won't find Scrum Masters there. Does that mean BAs and Scrum Masters and ADMs don't have productive hours? You do, but you don't carry out coding. You don't carry out the actual development and the actual testing. And these are just meant for the actual testing. What you will have as BA, and which they will have also, is maybe you have a timesheet where you record, oh, I came in this date, I was off on this. That's done on the timesheet, which goes to HR, or yeah, the HR department or personnel department and all that. But what we're looking at here for our capacity are the people that are actually doing the coding work. Okay. And like I said, they're limited to just the developer, the software engineer themselves, and the testers themselves. So we have a member, 7 members here, 4 developers and 3 testers. Okay, so when we look at the allocation column here, okay, for this particular team that we're using, John is a full team member. That's why you have him as 100%, is an 100% resource on this project. Same for James, and that's the step 3. The same for Mary, Michael, Chris, Gerard. But when you get to Agatha, you can see that Agatha is a borrowed resource, and that's why she's on 50%. She's a 50% resource. So your step 3 is to notice that, to identify that out, because it's going to affect the number of hours you have at the end of the day. And then your step 4 is to now look at your standard hours per day or per sprint. Okay, so you can see the one for per day here, and then you can see the one for per sprint here. So you can see everyone 8 hours per day. That's the standard hours they're working. And then for Agatha, for this particular team, is our standard hours per day for this particular team is 4. So because she's a borrowed resources on 50% resource, she has 4. And then when you do it per sprint, so this is just us multiplying this by 10 because it's 10 days. So per sprint, you will get 80, 80, 80, 80, and then you get 40 for Agatha. Okay, so we can see that the total per day for this particular team is 52 hours per day. Yeah, and then in sprint is 520. Okay, so let's see what happens to this 520 if we start factoring in all those considerations that we need to factor in to know the total hours we have at the end of our calculation. Okay, so the next step we want to look at is so this is just us opening up that this one that I've just shown us, yeah, where we get this 80 and this 8 and this 80 from together 520. This is just me opening it up for better understanding for us. So you can see we've listed all those days there, and then we'll have 8 hours for all the others. And then for Agatha, again, you'll have just 4 hours because she's a borrowed resource. And we're still coming to our 520. Now, going forward, this is what we'll now be using to calculate what we need to do. Okay. So moving on from that, we've put that in the document. Moving on from that, we come here. So during this particular sprint, there is a bank holiday. On the 16th of January, there is a bank holiday there for the team. So since it's a bank holiday, it's affecting all team members. And you can see for that 16, we've removed all the 8s there, and we have to put 0, 0, 0, 0 there because nobody's working on that day. So there's no productivity on the 16th on that day. Okay. And then when you remove that from everybody's 80, you remove this 8, you will end up with a 72, 72, 72. And then for Agatha, you get a 36 because she's 4. So we're just removing 4 from our own, and then that's 36. Now from our 520, do you see what we have now? We have 468 from our 520 because we've had to remove a whole day of the team not being working because it's a bank holiday. So from there, we also want to now look at still going on to step 5, which is looking at times that have been taken on. So apart from the team holiday, another thing we want to look at is the individual full day off or partial day off. So who are the ones that have taken day off? So John has not taken any day off apart from the bank holiday, so his own time is still 72. However, James have taken 2 days off. So he took the 13th off and he's also taking the 17th off, the whole day. So he's taking 2 full day off. And by the time you put the zeros to those ones, you can see that his total hours for the sprint has come to 56. And then Michael also is doing half day on this particular day. So he's just coming in the morning, doing 4 hours. So when you remove that also, the 4 hours is not doing from the 72, you get a 68. Okay. And then Mary, sorry, I jumped to Mary. Mary is taking 1 day off this sprint. So Mary's hours has come to 64. Chris is also taking half day off. You can see here. So Chris's time has come down to 68. Gerald is still keeping to the 72. So it's just the bank holiday that is affecting his own time. And then Agatha also is taking a day off here. So you can see that the 4 hours is gone there. So from our 36 hours, it's gone down to 32. So from 468 that we're coming from, because we've taken all those their full day and partial day off, it's come down to 432. Okay, so that's another factor we put in. Okay, so this is the team with all the times that they've taken off. And we have our 432 over there. And now we want to calculate the Scrum event times. Okay, so we're looking at, we've listed all the Scrum events here. We're looking at the number of hours we do it within the sprint and calculating that to know how many hours we need to remove again from that time that we have. Okay, so we can see for refinement, they do their refinement twice in the sprint. So they do it on Thursdays and on Thursdays. So this is, they do it 1 hour here, as you can see, and another hour here. So that's 120 minutes, which in hours. So we're doing it in minutes and in hours, just so just to give us a better understanding. So that's 2 hours gone for that team. And then their sprint planning is done the first day of sprint, and they use 2 hours to do it. So that's another 120 taken off. That's another 2 hours gone. Okay. And then the daily scrum is 15 minutes all through, except for this day that is the bank holiday. So that is 135 minutes, and that's just 2.25 hours taken off in total. The review is done at the end of sprint for 2 hours. We're taking that off again, 120 minutes, that's 2 hours. And then for their retro, they do 1 hour at the end of sprint also. For that, that's 60 minutes, and that's another 1 hour. So when you add all those together, you get a total of 9.25 hours, taken out. And we have to factor that into that table. So now we've just use this to calculate the number of hours that is meant for Scrum event time. And we're going to deduct that from what we're doing. Okay, so before we do that, we're looking at other meeting times, like I said. So for Scrum coaching session, yeah, you organize a Scrum coaching session for that during that particular sprint. It was agreed, and you're doing it for 2 hours on a Friday. So you want to factor that in also. And then there are other trainings that has been arranged for some of the team members, or even maybe all the developers have to go on a particular training to upskill and all that. We're factoring that in also. That's another 120 on a particular Tuesday for them. You factor that in also. So that is a total of 4 hours also going out of whatever time that they have. From that 432 that we have, that is another 4 hours going. So we come back to our table. We go into our table here. We know this is our team members. So this is the sprint hours for each one. The one we calculated that was 432. This is it. Okay, so that is the sprint hours. This is the Scrum event. We said is 9.25 hours. So you are going to deduct that from everyone's time, everyone's hours. You can choose to deduct it from their total, but you're deducting it from everyone's time. And remember, there is the other meeting also. You deduct that also. So if you deduct the Scrum event time and the other meetings, if we add that together, it will give you 13.25. Correct? Yes. So your 13.25 is what you deduct from everybody, and then you get available capacity. So imagine John now from his 72 hours. By the time we deduct the hours from event, meetings, and Scrum events, it's come down to 58.75 hours. That is his available capacity. Okay, and that goes for everyone. So you can see from 4:32, by the time we remove the time for Scrum event and other meeting, it's come down to 339.25 hours for their available capacity. And this is the formula that you use for calculating your available capacity. So available capacity equals your sprint hours, which is this, minus your Scrum event plus other meetings, which is this, that I said comes up to 13.25. And when you deduct that, this is what you get for the available capacity. Okay. All right, so we go to the next thing, next factor we need to put in. So that's how you calculate your fixed factor. So we're coming here. So here, what we're looking at, we want to calculate the focus factor. You know, we talked about one of the factors you need to consider is your focus factor. Okay. So now we have just so we have an understanding, I've brought in back that there are sprint hours that they have. So from this one, all the numbers you have here is where we've removed the team holiday, we remove the individual full day off, partial day off. That's when we have this. So we have the Scrum event, we have the other meetings, which will add together, deduct from this in order to get the available capacity. So for you now to look at the focus factor, you know, earlier on I explained what your focus factor is for you. That is the team's capability, you know, to remain focused on the sprint goal, the exact time they focus on it. There's a formula we use in working that out. So their available capacity is not their real capacity. So we use the focus factor to work out their real capacity for the sprint. Okay. And the formula you use for doing your focus factor is your team's standard available capacity. Their standard available capacity, remember, is 80 for each person because they are employed for 8 hours per day. Yeah. And then that's times 10, which is for the sprint, which is 80. So the team's standard available capacity, you divide that by, you divide their available capacity, which is this one. Yeah. You divide that by their standard hours they do every day, which is the 80, and then you multiply it by 100 because your focus factor has to be in percentage. You multiply that by 100. So, you know, like here, we have 58.75 for John. Remember that John and Gerard are the only ones that didn't take any individual day off. So the only time that was off for them is the bank holiday. So we're going to use them as the yardstick of what we need to do. So they have their full time. Like I said, the only time affecting their 80 is the bank holiday, which affects everyone. So that's what we're going to use. So we're going to approximate that 58.75 to be 59. That's why you'll have a 59 here, divided by the 80, which is the standard hours they've been employed, and then you multiply that by 100. So what you will get is a 73.75%, approximately 74. And that affects everyone. So you don't calculate focus factor individually. You calculate your focus factor based on the team's available capacity for that is meant to be for everyone. So if all these other people didn't take half day off, full day off, everyone would have had this 58.75. Because the only time, like I said, affecting this, the next chart you'll have a better understanding. The only time affecting this is the bank holiday, which affects everybody. So that is why we're using that as the yardstick, is the only thing we can use to calculate this 74. That's why we're using that. Okay, I'll show you another table where there was no bank holiday so that you can see what the focus factor for a time where there was no bank holiday and nobody took time off and everything, what it looks like. We'll see that. Okay, so this is the focus factor that you'll get to. Now, for us to get our real capacity, which you can use to plan what you take into sprints, or that the teams can use to commit to work that they need to do, is the real capacity. Now, to calculate your real capacity, what you're going to do is you're just going to multiply the available capacity, which is days, times the focus factor. So you're going to, for each one of them, you will have, like for John, you'll have 58.75 times 74%, which will be your 58.75 times 74 divided by 100. And then you will get this per sprint. Okay, so for this particular sprint in hours, John has 43 hours 47 43.47 hours for the whole 10 days, and per day he has 4.38 hours, roughly. Let's just say maybe 5 hours per day. Remember, he's the one that didn't take day off, take anything off. For this person is 3.51 hours, per day, and this is what the person has per sprint. And then you can see it's going all the way down. So from the 432, you can see that in the sprint, the whole team actually has just 251.01. Remember, we're coming from 520. So this helps you now to know that for this particular team, going into this sprint we just have like average capacity to work with. And that is the what you're going to look at when you're committing to work. Okay. Okay, so I said I was going to show us another one where nobody took any time off. So you can see here, there was no bank holiday. There was nobody taking any half day, full day off. So everybody has 80, 80, 80 all through. We can see that. But we're still going to deduct, our Scrum event and other meetings. So we're still going to use the same hours we have for the other one in. So by the time you deduct that, what you have is you have everybody having the same available capacity. Remember, nobody took any time off. And when you work the focus factor with that, what you'll be having, you have 66 here, we just approximate it to 67 divided by 80, which is the standard hours they've been employed, times 100. And that gives you 83.75, approximately 84. So you can see the focus factor is higher here than in the other one, because that one is affected by the bank holiday and the bank holiday mainly. So if the bank holiday had not been there, what we would have been using to get our real capacity in the other one, it would have been 84% focus factor. And then to get your real factor now is just you multiplying your available capacity with your focus factor. And then you see the team having 56, roughly 56 and everything. Don't forget, Agatha won't have 56 because she's doing half. She's 50%. And then by the time you add all that up together, you can see that even with their 520 here, by the time you deduct you factor the Scrum events and other meetings into place, what you'll be getting is a 358.89 hours for the particular sprint. So why the other one is reduced was because of the bank holiday that made it reduced, and then the day offs and the partial day offs that people have taken. That's why you're having that. So I'm just using this to show you that if there was no bank holiday, nobody took any time off, this is the hours you'll be having as your real hours for your team in this particular sprint. All right, before we go into the location, any question at this juncture before we go further? Because the next thing is just to show you where your capacity is located on your Azure DevOps. No question? Okay. So if you go into your Azure DevOps, this is your sprint board. I'm going to stop sharing and show us a real one, but I just want you to see it also on this slide. So where your capacity is located on your project board is on your project board, you go to your sprint page. And at the top, you can see here, so you have your task board here, you have your backlog here, you have your capacity there. Okay, so I'm going to go on it now, but to stop sharing, go on the Azure DevOps and then use the projects that we created to do our Azure DevOps training to show us a bit of what we've been talking about, just to drive it home a bit, so to say. Okay, so before I do that, this is just a recap of what we've done, because I might not be able to, come back to the slide. So like I said, the first step you need to know is to know your sprint duration. The second step that you need to follow is list the team members and their roles down. And then your third step is to know your team members' allocation. Is it 100% resource? Is it a 50% resource? Is it a 60% resource? Depending on how you and the other Scrum Masters from the other project that person is working on, your agreements on what needs to be done. Okay, so that's your third step. And then your fourth step is knowing the standard working hours, both in day and in sprints. Your fifth step is to factor in your, all the varying factors you have, the team holiday, if there's a bank holiday, individual holiday or partial day off, to factor that in. The sixth step is you factoring in the fixed. So these ones are called varying factors because it can happen, it might not happen. So they are varying. And then the fixed factor also, you putting that in. Those are your Scrum event that normally you will have a Scrum event during a meeting. So your other meetings might fall under varying or might be fixed. It depends. Okay, you might depend to have a Scrum coaching session during a sprint. You might not have it. There might be upskilling trainings. There might not be. So, but your Scrum events are fixed factors that you need to consider when you're calculating your capacity. And then the seventh step is you using the calculation to do your focus factor and also your real capacity. Okay, so any questions so far, in case you want me to go back to any slide before I stop sharing? Do we have any questions from anyone? Any questions? None? All right, so I'm going to stop sharing and then come on to the, okay. So I'm just going to share my screen again and then take us on to, God, bear with me, please.
Okay. So my question is, when please, is it possible to just go back to the slide, please?
Aha, that was why I said let me stay on the
question
slide
just
so that
kind of
that's
came
fine. Don't worry,
in.
I'll go back to it again. Where were we? Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
so
great.
just on the table where they had all the where they had like the first set of staff who just had only the bank holidays.
All right, I'm coming.
Let's use that for
there.
calculation.
Is it this one or the next one?
The next
Where
one.
you will have the bank holidays, is that the one you want to see?
Yes, where there was a set of staff that did not that only had the bank holidays rather.
Okay.
Everyone else had other holidays, but the first set only had the bank holidays. So I just wanted to ask, what if there was no set situation like that and every single staff had requested for holidays and all the numbers, like all the figures kind of deferred? What would be the standard of calculation, please?
Still the same thing. All you need to do is just to put in everyone's day. So let's assume that all 7 of them took one day or the other, yeah, it won't
Okay.
affect your it won't affect your formula. All you need to do is just make sure that you note the days they are taking off. So for this one, this is just when they took the bank holiday off. Well, if we go to the next one, this is when we're factoring in the individual holidays they have. So like I said, James took 2 days off here. If John also had taken a day off and all that, it doesn't affect your calculation. All you know is you record it and then know the total at the end of the day. So if he had taken a day off, let's assume he took a day off and everything, he might have ended up having a 68 here, another 72. The same goes for Gerard. He might have had, maybe if you are taking 2 days off or something like that, he might have had 56 here. So the formula stays. What gets affected is that you note the days they've taken, you deduct it from their total, and that definitely maybe affects the total here. But I've just pinpointed some few ones. Do you understand? Just to drive the point home. And that was why also there's a particular slide where I showed us and said, let's assume nobody took any day off and there was no bank holiday, what you will see. So if somebody had taken time off, if each and every one of them are taking time off, so the only 2 people that I can see on this chart that didn't take any time off, apart from the bank holiday, is John and Gerard. Every other person took time off. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Any other question based on this before I stop sharing again, in case I need to go back on any of the slides? Anyone? No? Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm just going to share, I want to show you, I'm going to go on the project board on Azure DevOps, so please bear with me. Let me know if you can see my screen, please. Yeah, can we all see the screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yes. Okay. All right, thank you. So normally this is your sprint. I hope we've been able, definitely you will have, because you've done your sprint planning anyway. So definitely this is because we didn't create any sprints during this thing. This would be your sprint, okay? Or let me go and pick a project, anybody's project, that because that will help us. Bear with me. I'm just going to pick any of your
Optimize.
projects that you can see. Okay. Somebody wants me to go to Optimize. Okay. Right. So let me go to Optimize project. Okay. So Optimize, this is your main board. Okay. I'm going on your sprint board, which is this. Just waiting for, sorry, my system is quite slow. Just click on this question. Okay, so Optimize, this is your excuse me, this is your sprint board. Yeah, so you can see that's the task board. Okay, this is your sprint backlog. This one here is still going to show all the stories, but it's going to show it as a backlog. So you have a product backlog board, and you also have a sprint backlog. So up here is where you have your sprint backlog. Let me close this planning. This is what you've got to the sprint. You can see the state saying committed and all the people that the story have been assigned to. You can see that here. So this is your sprint backlog. And the next one to it here is your capacity. And then quick one, Optimize. You've not set your sprint date. Can you see? So your chart is not going to show because you've not set your sprint date. Yeah? Okay. So this is your your capacity. You can see all your team members are here. all your team members. So what the first thing I want you to do, and I want all team members to go and do it, is to fill in the activities. So Abimbola, as a Scrum Master, your activity is documentation. So all Scrum Masters and ADMs, your activity is documentation. Who is Abimbola Olaide in your team? So I'm doing it for Optimite, and I want every other person to go and do theirs, but we'll do it together. What's the role for Abimbola Olaide? Scrum Master, QA, BA?
Not Scrum Master. I'll get back to you shortly.
Okay, all right. So let me then Optimize. You do this yourself, but let me just say that your Scrum Masters and your ADMs their activity is documentation. Your BAs, their activity is requirements. I hope you're noting that down. Then your developers, their activity is development. Your QAs, their activity is testing. Your DAs, their activity is development. Your cybersecurity guys, their activity is development.
Sorry, please. Please, can you just come again, please? Sorry.
Scrum Masters, ADMs, PMs, their activity is documentation. BAs, business analysts, their activities is requirements. Your developers that are going to be put on your project, their activity is development. Your QAs, their activity is testing. Your DAs, your cybersecurity guys, their activities is development. Okay?
Okay, just in case you still need it, Abimbola Olaide is a QA.
Okay, Abimbola, okay. So for
Olaide.
QA now, like we said, is testing. Yeah, but just fill in the other ones because I've told you what their activity is. So the day offs you see here, let's assume Abimbola Luwaye now wants to take 2 days off. Yeah, let me take that again. Abimbola wants to take 2 days off. We click on days off. What day is she taking off during the sprint? You pick the date. When is it ending? That's the start date. You pick it. Okay, so it doesn't want, let me just close that. And then when is it ending? If it's 3 days, you pick the day is ending. You close it, you save it, it will put it here. So I mean, but I'm going to do it and then I'm going to cancel this later on, just so you see the days that is going to add. Because you're a Scrum Master anyway, doesn't. So your sprint started on Monday, isn't it? So Abimbola is taking Monday off and Tuesday. So she's taking Tuesday off also. You can see it's calculated 2 days, total 2 days. And if I close it. Now I'm putting these days here for Abimbola. Abimbola is a Scrum Master. Remember, I said it's the people that are doing actual development and testing that you record their capacity. Let's assume after we've done that table that we did, Abimbola's hours per day falls on maybe 3 hours. Yeah, we put 3 here. Now, if you put time in for it, it's just so you know who you are putting hours against. That's why this activity is there. So that you don't record hours for every single person. Remember, it's not everybody that you need. The people that you need are the testers and the ones that will have testing, and the ones that will have development. They are the ones you need to record hours against. So by the time you've done your table, like that table that we saw in the chart, by the time you've done your table, you know you have all their names there and all their roles, you have it. So by the time you get to the last one, let me go to the last one that we have that showed us the exact hours per. Quickly, I'll get there now. I think this was the last one. Yes. So you're coming to their real capacity per day, which is the hours per day. Let's assume this is John now is Abimbola's name, and Abimbola is a developer. So 4.83 hours, if you approximate it, because 8 is higher than 5, so we can just approximate it to be 5. We'll come back to stop. Is it sure? Okay, so that I can. So we'll come back here and put 5 hours there for Abimbola. So even though Abimbola is doing 5 hours per day, Azure DevOps is going to work out what 5 hours per day for the sprint is going to be for Abimbola. So 5 hours per day would be times 10, which will be 50, isn't it? And then it's going to take these 2 days off it. That's why you need to put the days there, the days that have been taken off there before you, and also the capacity per days per day. You put that in there also. And Azure DevOps automatically works it out. Now there is a chart we have that says capacity on the dashboard. It will total the capacity. You'll be able to see your team's total capacity, because this one is not going to show you the total capacity, but that one will be able to show it to you on the dashboard. And then you will know, oh, my team's capacity for this sprint is so. Even though you've done it in an Excel document, but at least for you to get the per hour one, you put it there. And then you will realize by the time you deduct the people that are taking days and times of what you have on your spreadsheet in total hours is what Azure will give you on the dashboard on that widget called the capacity planning widget also. Okay. Do we have any question so far?
Yes.
So this is just to show you your capacity and how to calculate how to put your input to the capacity that you calculated here. Yes, go ahead with your question.
Okay, yes. I want to ask, looking at this table, the developer that is not an intern, the developers are the PO, they are not interns. Do we need to add them to the register? I mean, do we need to add them to the board?
Yes.
So
you add them to your project because they need to see the story they're working on. So on your project board, you're going to add who your developer is, get their names. They are all on the organization, don't worry. So you'll be able to pick them once you know them. Because for them to know what they are working on, they need to see the stories that we've committed interest rate, isn't it? Remember, they need to do the estimation also. So they need to be on the board, and then maybe what you will share with them is the URL for your board, so that it will be easy linking up for them. So they also, you have to bring them in here, put their names there, and then put the activity there also as developers.
Okay.
And then ask them, oh, what's your capacity per day for us? They will tell you, you put that there also. Within this sprint, are you taking any time off? If they are taking time off, they will tell you. If they are not taking time off, they will tell you, so that you'll be able to use their days off. Yeah.
Okay. I think we did not even. I don't think we added them at all.
You have to.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure if this will allow me to delete it. If it doesn't, that's fine. But I don't worry, you're a Scrum Master, so I didn't give you automatic day off. Don't go and say Maji gave me 2 days off.
Okay.
Okay, so and then the one for the bank holiday, I'll show you where that is. You can see at the bottom here, after you have all their names there, you can see at the bottom here, team days off. And you can see this one. So that's the one that calculates for all the team members. So if there is any bank holiday that falls within your team, this is where you record that. During your internship, you don't have bank holidays, or you work on bank holidays. So if you have bank holidays on Monday, they just not giving you that day off because it's internship or what. But this is just to show you that if you're in the workforce out there, that's how you use it, to calculate if your team or in the organization is using the capacity on the Azure DevOps. For mine, they don't use it. So what I use is just a spreadsheet. Everybody sees it, and I'm able to use that. But some team focuses on this because it helps you, like I said, to use the capacity chart. And in this internship, we want you to use it also, so that in case you go out there to work and your team uses it, you'll be able to use it. also. If your team doesn't use it, if they use the spreadsheet, don't worry. Once you master how to do this one, the spreadsheet one is easy because it's just like the spreadsheet you've created, isn't it, for your capacity planning? So you're fine with that. Okay, so like I said, for other teams that might not have put their sprint dates, you need to do that. So to do your sprint date, all you do is you click on set dates. You can see it will bring it up, and then you click on the calendar. Your sprint started this Monday, isn't it? Am I right, Abimbola?
It started on Tuesday, not Monday.
So you did your sprint planning on Tuesday.
Yes, on Tuesday, yes.
Okay, so the date for your sprint is fixed. It doesn't change, even if you didn't do your sprint plan when you're supposed to do it. So that's your team losing one day.
Yes, okay.
You can't change it. So it's still Monday to 16. That's 10 days. And you see that it will tell us the days remaining now. Are you sure you want to change the sprints? I'm not changing the sprint. Stay. Okay, because I didn't say. Okay. So you can see it's from February 5th, which is this Monday, to the 16th. And it's telling you the number of days remaining. It says you have 4 work days remaining. And you can see that there was like an exclamation mark here before. Now you can see that it's not there. It's formed your, let me click on it. It's formed your chart for you, but nothing has been recorded so far on it. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go and do another thing on your board, and then you will see the changes that come in here. I'm going to delete what I've done because this is just to show you something. Okay, so Abimbola, right now I think let's stop the recording if nobody has question concerning the capacity planning, and then we can do workshop. Come back to this to work on it
Sorry,
as a
I've got
workshop.
a question. I just want to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
How many developer needs to be on board?
Depending on your team and your projects in the workforce out there. So you might have in a place you can have 8 developers, 2 testers. One tester might do manual, another tester might be doing automation, or both of them can be doing both manual and automation. But normally in the project, you have more developers than testers.
All right, okay, thank you.
But that's in the workforce out there. But over here, I'm not sure how many developers will be put on your project. It could be 1, it could be more than 1.
Okay, because for our home project, we've only got 1 developer that's been
Yeah, that's
attending.
fine.
So, okay,
That's
all right,
fine.
thanks.
Even if it's 1 developer, work with, like I said, for this one, it's a learning process. You're on a training. But if you go to interview, please don't go and say on my project I have 8 testers and 1 developer. They will know that you are not on a normal and a real project. So it's more developers than testers mainly on any project. So like I said, you might have 8 developers or 6 developers and 2 testers. You might have 8 developers and 3 testers, but the developers are always much more than the testers you have in any project team.
Thank you.
Any other question? You're welcome, Pedro. Any other question before we stop? Bibola, do you have a question?
Is there any reason why you have got more developers than testers, or more than, is there any practical or?
Okay, I don't think there's any. I think mainly it's more of the people that are doing the coding, doing the development. You need them more than the people that are testing. So testers are just verifying and bringing quality in, isn't it? To say that this that you've done meets the acceptance criteria. They are verifying that so that we know that quality is in place. We know that security is in place. But the people that are actually building the feature, the software, the app, the product, whatever it is, needs to be more than the people that are just testing. I think it's just much more logical like that you have more developers. So imagine if you have more testers than developers, your testers won't have much to do. Because in a situation where you've committed to maybe 4 stories and you have maybe 5 testers, one person won't have anything to test. So you need more people to develop so that you can finish what you've committed into the sprint and less people testing. And the testers' work doesn't start until the developers' work has finished anyway. Okay, any other question from anyone? None? Okay, Abimbola, let's stop recording. Thank you so much for your time.